Thank you very much. Good evening, my brothers and my sisters. Are you ready? Are you ready to march back to the palace of victory? You know, I'll tell you something, my brothers and my sisters. I have diagnosed the problem, and I have made a proper prognosis. What happened on the 6th of June 2016 was an ectopic pregnancy. Fertilization took place in the fallopian tube. And any time from now, there will be a spontaneous abortion, and out goes the United Workers' Party. My brothers and my sisters, tonight we have been having a great meeting, free of Mepui, free of Movelang as usual, simply articulating the issues confronting this country of ours. We are unbending the bending done by Cambridge Analytica. Today we must show the same courage and vision as the leaders whose memories we so frequently applaud. Comrade Sean, tonight, our competent second deputy political leader of our great party, in his usual youthful, intelligent, and eloquent fashion, handled the spectrum of youth development and sports issues with great dexterity. Comrade Musa, the sober and conscientious chairman of our party and member for Viewfoot North, drummed home the point that agriculture is certainly on the back burner with the UWP government. And the slide in agriculture will continue as long as this government continues to disregard sustainable agriculture and food security. Musa clearly established that SLP governments have always made health and education urgent priorities. And our policies have always attempted to equalize opportunity, destroy privilege, and give every living St. Lucian an equal opportunity to grow and develop. And we hear today about the privatization of the EU OK Hospital. Chasney promised in his budget to introduce quality healthcare in this country. How can you introduce quality healthcare when you found a hospital that was completed? Up to now, you can't open the hospital. You found St. Jude's almost completed. And what you did? For 2 years, you have stopped the hospital and refused to allow the people to move into the hospital. As a result of privatization, there is great uncertainty among the nurses at the Victoria Hospital. You have a number of nurses who are currently migrating overseas in search of jobs. How can you have quality health care if your experienced nurses are leaving this country? So my brothers and my sisters, I see, like I told you earlier, an ectopic pregnancy. And very soon from now, through the natural course of things, Chasney and UWP will be no more from the corridors of power. Brothers and sisters, as I sat there, I listened to Brother Ernest Hilaire. In his usual serious and rational manner, accentuated the gravity of the issues surrounding the CIP, including how UWP thuggerized the program. Brothers and sisters, as one who was largely foremost in fostering the birth and initial dynamics of the CIP, he has consistently made the point that the CIP was conceived in the context of attracting high-worth investors as part of an overall plan to assist St. Lucia in building a strong overall investment climate to attract higher quality investment and create increased spillovers and linkages with the domestic economy. For example, instead of giving our CIP monies to their friends overseas, the monies would be used to assist our local entrepreneurs in developing sites and properties to give visitors an authentic St. Lucian experience. This would impact positively on local business, employment creation, poverty reduction, and will grow the economy. And my brothers and my sisters, the UWP DSH model is the absolute antithesis of that. Horse manure has never been used to grow an economy anywhere in the world. Horse manure will not grow employment and create economic growth. This is what is called shitnomics, which is predicated upon Chastain's own ideology of shittiology. Shittiology must never be embraced. And shitnomics will never take us to the promised land. In sharp contrast, we listen to our comrade leader tonight. After surveying St. Lucia's economic landscape, map out with a steady hand the illogical economic patterns of Alan Chastains. Our political leader is right when he said that reducing public debt should be a key macroeconomic goal. Hence, we must move in the direction of fiscal consolidation, prudent debt management strategies, reducing vulnerabilities to external shocks, and growth-enhancing reforms. That is how you develop an economy. This is how a serious economic leader develops the business of a country. Going forward, the scope for sustaining Chastain's expansionary fiscal policies is limited, because not only have public debts risen rapidly, but the global environment is not supportive of shitnomics. The UWP government has created instability and hopelessness in this country. Its actions are motivated by cheap politics rather than what's in the best interest of this country. It is burdening the majority of St. Lucians, especially the poor, the marginalized, the dispossessed. The question is, from time to time, I see some on Facebook, I see some on television, I hear some on radio talking about the government, how well the government has done. And I ask myself, why would anyone of sound mind and without an ulterior motive give the United Workers' Party government credit for anything positive in the economy between 2017 and 2018? When all the measures taken by Flambeau since coming into office have prevented the country from experiencing the growth that could have been achieved, as well as the lower unemployment that we were on track to achieve. Brothers and sisters, at the debate on the estimates, I made it clear that the economy grew because the economies of the big countries grew and tourists came to St. Lucia. And the reason why we did so well in tourism is because of the work of the Labour Party. The Royalton Hotel, the Harbour Club, and Sunwing came to bring tourists for the Royalton Hotel. I also said that if the UWP government did not stop the airport redevelopment with the IFC, the Grosile Highway, the Beaufort Administrative Building, the Laborie Market, to name a few, construction activity would have been better, employment would have been higher, which means that unemployment would have been below 20%. I say that without any fear of contradiction. Not even the best political liar can refute that point. But I say to those persons that give wrapping the incompetence of this government with glowing and misleading commentaries will not conceal the objective reality that there was a deterioration in the fiscal position of St. Lucia and a reduction in the current surplus during the fiscal year 2017-2018. I asked them to pay attention to those vitals when attempting to give credit, especially the primary balance. The reason for the focus on the primary balance rather than the overall fiscal balance is because the primary balance corresponds more closely to the government's efforts to generate surpluses and therefore is an indication of the government's policy stance. So, si a gouvernement fait primaire, you leave out the overall fiscal balance because it has interest payments in it. And you look at how well the government did. The government of the United Workers' Party, on the basis of the vitals, was a palpable failure. And the only thing that kept us afloat is the work of the Labour Party between 2011 and 2016. Tell them, take that, put that in the pipes and smoke it. But it is interesting to note that those same people who can find a voice to support nonsense and mediocrity, Alan Chasney, via the power vested in him, has transformed St. Lucia into the plaything of a ruling clique. Politically involved foreign cooperation and friends, not a word from them. The UWP government insults, attacks, and disrespects public servants, not a word from them. The UWP government uses gas prices as a tax system, which has increased the tax burden on St. Lucians, not a word from them. This UWP government abandons the airport redevelopment arrangement with the IFC for an alternative arrangement which is problematic, not a word from them. This UWP government abandons the abattoir in favor of some fly-by-night project, not a word from them. The UWP government moves to privatize the OKEU hospital, not a word from them. This UWP government stops the Viewfort administrative complex, not a word from them. This UWP government uses food prices as a tax system, causing the poor to spend a greater proportion of their income on food, not a word from them. The UWP government withdraws capital budget support for the creative industries, not a word from them. This UWP government imposes a curfew of fear in this country, suspends civil liberties in this country, tortures patriotic and noble St. Lucians for honest opinion, not a word from them. This UWP government uses CIP monies to subsidize the activities of their foreign friends at the expense of St. Lucians, not a word from them. This UWP government chops social programs which were set in motion to benefit the poor, the marginalized, the dispossessed, not a word from them. The UWP stopped the St. Jude's Hospital reconstruction project, not a word from them. Maybe they have what is called political laryngitis. Laryngitis, lonely laryngitis, ubasapali. But the St. Jude's Hospital could help them regain their voice when it leaves the stadium, which now leads me to the discussion on the petty politics the UWP is playing with the St. Jude's Hospital. My brothers and my sisters, when the hospital got burnt on the 9th of September 2009, Stephenson King was in office. The initial decision taken by Stephenson King was to rebuild the burnt portion of the hospital and the other two buildings and move the patients back to the hospital by September of 2011. And then during that time, they would be planning, designing, and constructing a new facility by Boseju. That was the initial scope of works. The reconstruction of the St. Jude's Hospital commenced in September of 2010. In August of 2011, instead of the patients moving back to the hospital, as promised by Stephenson King, and Stephenson King was still the Prime Minister in August 2011, there was a revised policy direction by Prime Minister King. The reinstatement of the St. Jude's Hospital completely at its original site with new and improved infrastructure. So the United Workers' Party did the initial scope of works, and they extended it when they said they are going to remain at St. Jude's. A project management unit was set up in the Department of Economic Development in February 2010 under the United Workers' Party. Halcro Group Limited was recruited in July 2010 to provide technical and supervisory support for the St. Jude's reconstruction project. A steering committee which met monthly as far as practicable was set up, comprising of the permanent secretary in the Department of Economic Development, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health, the deputy permanent secretary in the Department of Economic Development, the chairperson of the St. Jude's Board of Directors, Dr. Cherry Poyot, chief executive officer at St. Jude's Hospital, the chief health planner from the Ministry of Health, another employee from the Ministry of Health, someone from the Office of Budget, and somebody else from the Department of Economic Development. As autant pièces politiciens en les steering committees are. They were all public servants. In addition, Cherry, who was the chief executive officer at St. Jude's, had his own committee. And both Halcrow and Miss King were actually coordinating everything with the board at St. Jude's. And what were they coordinating with them? Key areas of collaboration: hospital layout and facilities, equipment and furniture requirements, signage, accreditation roadmap and initiation, operations and maintenance plan, biomedical solid and chemical waste management plan, security management plan, hospital commissioning and transfer plan. In 2014, and they gave us a scope of works with no money. And in 2014, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Kennedy Anthony, applied for a loan to the Taiwanese government to ensure that we expedite works at the St. Jude's Hospital. He applied in 2013, and the loan was approved at the end of 2014. And the first disbursement was made in January of 2015. But because most of the contractors had already demobilized, they had to remobilize. And by that time, it's at the end of 2015. So no financial resources were available. And there is something very important that I note in the report, that the project was initiated as a result of an emergency and did not go through the normal project development cycle of similar projects, which is historically 5 to 10 years prior to physical implementation. So you plan the hospital 5 to 10 years before you even lay a brick. But we were refueling in the air. And despite all the challenges associated with the hospital, we were able, on June 6, 2016, left the hospital that all they had to do was to tile the hospital, do the electricals, put the tiles in the ceiling, clean the hospital, and move the patients back to the hospital. And in fact, if you want to do everything now to move into the hospital without having to do anything else, 6 months is more than sufficient. And I said to you, I do not have to be an engineer to know that. And so, had we been in office for the past 1.5 years, patients, doctors, nurses, and other staff would have been back at St. Jude's Hospital. Now you know why Dr. Anthony was in a hurry to get people out of the stadium. Because the stadium is not a hospital, it's a camping site for the patients, the doctors, and the nurses. And according to the WHO, health, water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities are fundamental for the provision of quality people-centered care. Even in developed countries, 1 in every 10 patients is harmed while receiving hospital care. And the stadium in no way provides anything close to the facilities of a hospital. This compromises the ability of the doctors and nurses to provide safe and quality care and places both those providing and those receiving care at considerable risk. Besides, the stadium is falling apart. It is a physically threatening environment. Medical equipment that could be used by medical staff in the diagnosis are either in boxes or cannot be used because of power fluctuations at the stadium. But this united wicked party does not care about the people of the South, whether they live or die. Whether they live or die, they do not care. And so I am saying to Alan Chasney tonight that we are approaching the hurricane season. And you can never tell what could happen during a hurricane season. We can never tell another Maria will not appear in this place. And if anything happens to the doctors, nurses, and patients at St. Jude's Hospital, by his refusal to move them from the stadium to the hospital, he shall be held liable and his cabinet. I make no bones about that. And I want to tell him tonight too that he must begin work on the hospital immediately. Immediately. And there will be no negotiations about going beyond 2018. And I stand before you tonight clearly, and I know exactly what the elite Republican guards are prepared to do. And this Labour Party will never ever engage in sabotage. Our mission is to mobilize the broad majority of St. Lucians. We believe in democracy. We believe that this is the legitimate way to transfer power. And so we shall do everything within the parameters of the law. But we are solid as a rock. We are telling him tonight, we are not afraid of him. And Chasney and his cabinet is jeopardizing our chances of getting official development assistance. Let me just give you an idea as I prepare to close of those who contributed to the hospital. We got a grant from the Republic of China and Taiwan, $22.5 million. A grant, government of Australia, over $1 million. Grant, government of Mexico, over $7 million. Grant, government of Germany, $2.08 million. Government of Israel, $40,317. Grant, Republic of India, in excess of $672,000. Donation of medical equipment, Hess, $2.7 million. Donation medical equipment from the U.S., $2.7 million. Total cash, overseas persons and organization came to $2,061,000. Total donations and contributions came to $41.32 million. And you are going to just throw that away by trying to transform our hospital into a brothel, a kaibolo. Chasney, no way, Chasney. No way. No way. And I'm taking this personal. I live in the immediate vicinity of the hospital. This is my hospital. This is not Chasney's private property. It is not his father's own. This is our property. And he's not going to deal with the property as if it's his personal property. So as I close tonight, I want to say to you that you see my comrades on the platform, we are tight. We are tight. And you know all the investigations that are going on. You know what I have done? I've challenged the UWP. Go ahead and investigate. You will get absolutely nothing. And I told them that I know that they are lying because they attacked me before. They attacked me about I'm not feeding my child. They attacked me about I bought 4 houses in Auger, and I bought a house at Black Bay, and I bought a fleet of vehicles. I'll tell you this, my brothers and sisters, in closing. I came into politics with my property, one property. I came into government with my vehicle. In government, I did not buy any vehicle. The only project that I could be associated with is my mother's home. And I don't need no advice to do anything with my siblings or with my parents. I honor my mother and my father. Now, if anybody is holding anything for me, take it. Sou mwen mette rien le non person. Mwen ka do from market steps a point. Point, it's yours. Because I know I went through my horrors and my challenges, and the set of people that were there for me, my mother, my father, my siblings, my wife Emily, my friends. And I'll tell you this. This is called lynching. You remember in the United States of America, they used to lynch black people all the time. So once we speak about the poor management of the economy, the first thing they do is to try to lynch us in our own country. Well, guess what? Tell Chasney and his friends We are not afraid. And we are going to mobilize the broad possible majority for decisive action. I want you to remain on red alert, because if Chasney does not move on St. Jude's, we are going to demonstrate. We are going to the stadium. We are going to be in solidarity with the patients, the doctors, the nurses, and we are going to continue until they get out of the stadium and back to the hospital. Now I have news for those who stand behind fake profiles and malign us. I do not do the same. Because you must come to the table with clean hands. And I have prayed to my God. And for all those who accuse us, they will suffer the consequences. You see those who shout about things, whether on radio or on the streets, when the time comes, they might need that voice to ask for a glass of water. But because they wasted it on maligning us, they cannot ask for a glass of water. There will be those who use their fingers on the computer to type magie, to malign us. You might need those fingers to type. Please save me. And because you have wasted it on maligning us, you are going to suffer the consequences. And so I say to them, you all want to investigate? Go ahead and investigate. We are not afraid of investigation. And we are not afraid of Chasney and his friends. Like the Spanish would say, la lucha continua. Hasta la victoria siempre. The struggle continues, my brothers and my sisters. Good night and peace and love.